This shop is going from being a construction site to a true dream shop. It's been a long time coming, and hopefully all the planning and pre-work I've been doing will pay off because it's all getting covered up. We've got walls to insulate, sheetrock to finish, lights to install, and a brand new epoxy floor to lay down. The weather continued to put up a fight until a bitter end, and this process ended up taking 2 months longer than it should have. I'm starting to wonder if I'm ever even gonna move into this place. This video is sponsored by Factor. I am so ready to get the inside of this place done, and as you can see from what's behind me, we've already started that process with insulation. But before we even got to this stage, there was quite a few things that I had to make sure I took care of. Another cold day in the shop. What I'm doing is tidying up all of the things before the guys come to insulate and put up drywall. There's all kinds of like little tiny things that I just didn't quite finish. I actually made an entire checklist for me to go over. Things like poking wires through the wall to get to the other side. Stuff that if it gets covered up with drywall insulation, I won't be able to go back and fix it. So I'm knocking those things out before they show up, and then we'll get this thing insulated. One thing I thought would be a good idea is to block out the location of each airline. That way it's nice and solid and won't rip off the drywall if I accidentally pull on the airline while using it. Then I decided that maybe I do want to run a 6-inch dust collection duct in the ceiling, you know, just in case. Like I mentioned before, my dust collector will be up in that utility room, so I thought having this run in the floor just below it might make running the final ducting a little cleaner. Or maybe I'm just wasting my time, kind of like with this vent line I already ran right next to it. And speaking of wasting time, a lot of this pre-work sure feels like a panic-induced time suck. But I'm really hoping I'll pat myself on the back one day in the future for thinking ahead. Like putting in this conduit run, just in case I want to run a wire from one side of the shop to the other. Next up is getting the outdoor kitchen area utilities all sorted out, and this is where I'll be tying into that. We've already got the water lines run, but I needed to get the power added too. Then, luckily, I was able to find an awesome plumber who literally the day before the insulators came, showed up to run this gas line from the back of the shop where the main gas line comes in for the pool equipment, up through the attic and then back down to the outdoor kitchen. With that done, future grill and chill is secured. After adding an impromptu outdoor vent right here that I'll use with my laser cutter, I turned my attention to the network fiber line running from my house. Now going back to the foundation prep, I actually ran a 3/4 inch conduit all the way through the foundation for this exact purpose. But it turns out that the pre-terminated fiber line that I bought won't actually fit through that small conduit, which is of course a bummer. So I decided that coming in through this side of the shop into the little network closet is the easiest route. The PVC conduit bend needed a little persuasion to neatly fit inside the wall, but it's nothing a blowtorch can't fix, right? Finally, I had to remember to document and measure exactly where each recessed light fixture was before it, all gets covered up. There's not much to insulation, but one thing I definitely wanted to do was add these black plastic attic baffles in areas where they'd be insulating directly against the roof sheathing. This provides a small air gap behind the insulation which allows the hot air to rise and escape out the roof ridge vents above. Now where I live in Ohio, there's an intermediate insulation inspection, and one of the more bizarre things that I was told I need to do to pass inspection was to seal up the top and the bottom of the insulation against the top and bottom plates of the framing. I'm told this creates an air barrier between the conditioned space inside the shop and the outside air, and I guess the thought is to stop the transfer of either hot or cold air depending on what time of the year it is. I have never seen this, nor have the people doing the installation, or frankly, anyone else I've ever talked to. So I think it's pretty pointless, but we had to do it for the inspector, and sure enough, it passed. So the next logical step would be to, of course, add drywall, but just like many other stages of this project, there's something I gotta do first. And that actually has to do with these wire drops you see from the ceiling. Since I'm gonna be directly wiring all of my fixtures, I've gotta make sure the locations of where those wires pop out of the ceiling are exactly where I want the fixtures. And because I already have my fixtures ready to go, I'm gonna take a couple out of the box, measure where those little knockouts are for where the wiring's gonna pass through. That way I can make sure that everything is located exactly how I want it. 11.5 inches, and the fixture is 46.5. All right, with all of those wire drops located, all of my lights should now be in perfect rows. At least I really hope they will be, because it's gonna really bother me if one light is slightly off from the others, but we'll tackle that when we get there. We are now officially ready for drywall. And I know drywall is not the first obvious choice for a workshop. A lot of guys go with plywood, even OSB, some sort of like functional covering that you can hang something pretty much anywhere. And I totally see the merit in that. But I'm electing to go with drywall because I want this place to just be nice. I'm a big believer in catering your shop to you and what makes you most productive in your environment, and this, for me, makes the most sense. The drywall was actually delivered a couple of months ago because, well, I was hopefully optimistic about the timeline, I guess. And it's been completely in the way up until now. I always learn so much watching talented pros do their thing and seeing how fast they can accurately cut and install 12-foot sheets of drywall, especially overhead without a drywall panel hoist, is pretty insane. All the drywall sheets are up, including the mold-resistant sheets in the bathroom. And the crew rolled right into taping and floating them over the course of the next few days. The struggle though, thanks to the gaping hole where my garage door should be, is the temperature. It's been consistently between 20 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which means the joint compound and mud can't actually cure, and it may crack if it does. So I've actually been cycling through propane tanks and leaving these bazooka heaters running to help. It does feel crazy and really inefficient to do this, but at this point, I just want to get it done. As you can see, the drywall is mostly done. They still got to sand some stuff, but the garage door installers are coming tomorrow, so I've got to put up some framing around the garage door opening so they can put up the tracks. So, got to do that first. These trim boards allow the tracks to be flush with that bottom curb on the foundation. And I'll add that top horizontal piece once the installers are here and they can tell me exactly where they want it. The garage door I picked is super insulated. I think it's R19, which is actually identical to what the wall insulation rating is. So having this in place is going to make it so much easier to heat and cool this space. I'm also going with a side-mounted opener to make sure I have clearance around my future hoist opening up there. Getting to this point has been a ton of work, and I'm working up an appetite just rewatching this footage while I record this voiceover, which is why I'm so glad I'm always stocked with Factor meals. Now, like you, I'm busy and hardly ever have time to cook nutritious food that I should be eating. So for the past 3 years, I've used Factor to deliver fresh, never frozen meals right to my doorstep. It's cheaper and way more convenient than takeout, plus only takes about 2 minutes to heat up and enjoy. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, you're telling me that this little wannabe microwavable dinner is actually healthy and tastes good? Yes! Why would I be a paying customer for over 3 years if it weren't true? I like it because I can always mix it up week by week, so I never get bored with my selections. And if you're feeling a little bit bougie, try their gourmet meals that features premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and truffle butter. If you need some help staying on track with your nutrition, you should really check this out. It's been a game changer for me. Head to factor75.com or click the link down below and use code 50ShopNation to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50ShopNation at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Okay, now back to the guys doing the actual work. The last drywall step is sanding, and it's an extremely messy process. Sure, they make powered drywall sanders with built-in dust extraction for dainty woodworking YouTubers, but this guy is built different. He's not scared of a little dust or a mild case of mesothelioma. He's a man. His helper downstairs, though, was clearly in the dainty woodworking YouTuber group. His supple little hands were probably blistered at the end of the day after that. It's like DJI Inception. Don't touch tips. All right, so with the garage door in place and the drywall up, this is already starting to feel like a place I want to spend a lot of time in, and it's much easier to keep warm with the insulated door in place. But as you can tell from what's behind me, it's still an absolute train wreck in here, but there's no point in cleaning it up because I'm about to make it even messier. Because the next step is priming and painting. And before I even get to this step, I have to clean off all of the drywall. If you look really closely on the drywall, there's a really fine layer of dust everywhere after they sanded. So the first thing I tried to do was actually vacuum the walls using a shop vac with a HEPA filter. I thought this was working pretty well, especially with this little cyclone separator I put on a bucket, but after going back and rubbing my hands on some of the parts, I noticed that there's still quite a bit of dust left. So the next thing I'm gonna try is called drywall dust mopping. It's something I saw on a couple videos online. And it works basically just like the name implies. You've got a microfiber cloth duster thing on the end of a pole, and you run it along the walls and the ceilings, picking up the dust as you go. This seemed to work a lot better and is gonna get me to a point where I can actually start painting. Since this is unfinished drywall, I need to start with a special PVA primer that will help seal up the porous surface. If I were to just try to paint directly on the drywall, it wouldn't bond very well and I'd run the risk of it peeling later, which wouldn't be very shop greatness-like. You know, I was gonna spray this. I've got a really nice sprayer that would make pretty quick work of this, but all the prep work I would have to do to tape everything off, protect the floors, just didn't feel like it was worth it. So I'm gonna roll it with this big 18-inch roller, which should hopefully cut down on the time it takes. I've already cut in all the corners and everything, so nothing to it but to do it. At about this point, I started to realize that I too probably fall in that dainty woodworking YouTuber category, and the full scope of this paint job started to hit me. This was gonna take a while. Once I started priming the ceiling, I remembered that getting paint in your eyes isn't ideal either. I can't do the safety squint while I paint, unfortunately, so I had to turn to actually wearing eye protection. Imagine that. So Keaton, have you ever painted before?
Like that? I've seen people on YouTube do it.
Perfect. YouTube, you can learn anything. All right, as you can see, we've got all the primer on the walls, at least the first coat, and you're probably tired of watching me paint, so I'm gonna do something I wish would work in real life. I'm gonna snap my fingers and we're gonna be done. If only it were that easy. But man, Looks so much better. As you can see, we've got the walls and the ceiling all primed and painted. We got 2 coats of paint on this thing, and it is alabaster white, if you're curious about the color. And I most definitely did not get any help. Like, definitely didn't do that. Okay, so maybe I realized that it was gonna take me a week to paint this myself. So in the interest of getting the video out on time, I called an audible, but they were awesome, by the way. Also, it's funny what you see once the drywall's up, kind of like this little bump out in the hallway here. It's not gonna be a big deal for where it is and for the entryway of this room, but you know, not ideal. But as you can see from both the upstairs and the downstairs, it's still pretty dark in here, and I fully intended on getting all of the light fixtures installed in this video. But I actually don't have power run to the building yet, and before they let me do that, I've got to get all of the outlets, all of the fixtures, all the switches installed. So I kind of need to tackle that. But the added benefit is that I can finally get my HVAC mini split system set up from Mr. Cool, which is going to be critical for the last piece of this shop puzzle, and that's the floor. I'm going to be doing an epoxy coating using this Ligari product, which I used on my other garage about 4 years ago now. It's held up great, looks awesome, and makes keeping everything clean really easy. And that is because, you know, epoxy and cold weather don't mix. So we're gonna get all that tackled in the next video. Until then, keep pursuing shop greatness.